Right, so we are back again, and today's guest, I'm not going to lie, it's someone who I couldn't wait to get on. It's a young gentleman called Archie Whitfield. What he's achieved, and I know this sounds like I'm making it up, is probably one of the most unique, difficult things. So in memory of his dad passing away a year ago, he ran from each Premier League stadium, which equaled, I think, 830 miles. He did it in around, I think it was 24 or 25 days, raised £22,000 for the Brain charity. And he's basically today, we've spoke about everything he's done. Obviously, the reason he did it, how he come to deciding that's what he wanted to do, the memory of his dad, the charity itself. So, yeah, give it a watch. Let me know what you think. Like, comment, and subscribe, and enjoy the episode. Mate, I'm not going to lie, I've been really looking forward to getting you on. Story's mental. Obviously, loads to go through. Really excited to go through it all. Just to give a bit of an insight into what you've done, can you actually explain the manicness of what you've achieved? And it is an achievement.
Yeah, well,
it's a fantastic achievement.
I saw over the last month in April, from the 2nd of April start date to the 25th, I ran from I ran to every Premier League stadium, starting in Newcastle at St James's Park, ran sort of obviously across the country, and then finished at the Emirates on the 26th, and then ran London Marathon the next day.
So you ran the marathon after all that, as if that wasn't enough?
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of came up, and I thought, you know what, it's like, you obviously, there's so much ballots and stuff like that these days. With it being such a big event, it's like, if we've got an opportunity, I might as well.
That's crazy, that. What, as amazing as that is, and I want to get into it as amazing as that is, because it's fantastic, how much planning went into that? Because sure, you had to look at where it wasn't the longest route between the stadiums, which stadium you'd start, which stadium you'd end. Or am I just completely getting that wrong? Did you just go, oh, I'll just do this? Like, what was your idea behind it?
That was my idea. So I did this in memory of my dad.
Yeah.
And so after he passed, it was like, I'd love to do something in his memory.
Yeah.
Related to football and sport in general. And so I've been thinking about, I was straight away sort of thinking about something that I could do over the months afterwards. And then, so I think when I decided that this was the thing, it's been probably about a year.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's learning, because it's my first sort of big run. And so, like, for example, like, a lot of it's sort of logistics in terms of where you're staying each night.
Yeah.
The route. But in my head, it was like, just follow Google Maps.
That's how I do it as well.
And I got started about a few weeks before. My brother was like, Arch, I think you're going to need to look into this a bit more than just Google Maps, because A roads and stuff like that. And it came to it, and I didn't do enough. And by sort of Leicester onwards, Stan was just planning it as I was running along,
like day by day.
Yeah. So it was just but a lot of sort of me trying media, get a bit of coverage of it, and just a lot of learning along the way, really. So
I've really enjoyed of it. What exactly?
I think, as you say, that's sort of the planning side of things, and just like next time I do something, the route will probably be the first thing I do.
Yeah.
And just, I think, obviously the training as well. Again, in my head when I first started, I thought, you know what, I'll just basically work my training up.
Yeah.
Gradually building up to the amount of I'll be running in the month. And it'll be fine. But then, about 6 months out, I was like, probably not the way to do it.
Yeah.
I've probably been absolutely peppered by the time I start. So I ended up getting a coach, and he helped massively as well. I
was going to say, what type of training goes into that? Because how many miles was it overall between the 20 stadiums?
It was 830 odd.
And you ran it in 28 days?
25 or 26, can't remember, yeah.
So that's like, you're looking at like what? That's got to be the best part of 30, 40 miles a day.
Yeah,
so it's like more than a marathon each day.
Yeah.
So you've essentially ran 21 marathons, essentially? Because it's 20 stadiums and the London Marathon. Is that right?
So sometimes you would go like several days without seeing a stadium.
That's crazy.
So like Newcastle to Goodison was like 4 or 5 days of sort of 50 to 60 kilometres.
It's a long distance, isn't it? Obviously like northeast to northwest kind of thing. It's huge. Is that where you went from Newcastle to Everton?
Yeah.
Then I'm assuming like Liverpool and things like that.
Yeah, Manchester and
Yeah, I was going to say, like, obviously from a performance side, what type of training went into that? Because I was thinking, have you just winged this and like had a go at it? But did you actually have a coach to do it with you?
So yeah, I did. I ended up getting a coach back in probably September time. They're a company called like Optimal Endurance.
Yeah.
And they have several coaches on the in their company, each sort of specialise in different things. So it was a sort of, again, my brother's mate that sort of put me onto this, put me onto him, and it was just a case of straight away. Then I was like, wow, I know I'm gonna have to think about a trainer. Just do what he says, and it'll be all right. But it was obviously a lot of in terms of that. It was a lot of learning in terms of the progression sessions or like interval training or long, slower runs and all. For me, it was just like go out, do a run, and then come back. That was all there was to it before this. So it was interesting to learn about them different training techniques as well.
Yeah, I can imagine it's because I can't imagine there's anything else that would kind of replicate what you've done.
Yeah,
because it's the first I've ever heard of anyone doing anything like this. I had a lad on, I think it was about a year, maybe 2 years ago. He did 10 marathons in 10 days.
Did he? Yeah.
Which is obviously an amazing achievement.
Yeah.
That's the closest thing I can think of to yours. And he said it was fucking chaos, basically. Like, it was just so difficult for, like, obviously his body and things like that. So, like, when I got told about the challenge, I was like, although it's amazing, I was more just intrigued how you did it, because I've never heard anyone else do it.
Yeah.
Is you the first person to do it? From my knowledge, you are.
I think people have done obviously previous like Premier League stadium tours.
Yeah.
But obviously it's obviously a new league every year.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think I was the first one to do it this year, so that was
history then, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really cool.
This year. Have you got, just on a little bit of a separate note, any stories, any funny stories, any bad stories about the run? Anything that like you think that would be good listening?
I think that the main, because for the most part it was all pretty like smooth sailing, but I think there was so my brother, as I say, with the route, he planned down to Birmingham, and I then planned from Birmingham to Leicester and onwards.
Yeah.
But our like methods of sorting the route out were a bit different. So his was a bit more thorough, and mine was go on Google Maps, go as like. Drop the man. I'm
the same as you.
See if it was single carriageway, and it was like, yeah, that single carriageway, I can run down that. I'll run down that.
Yeah.
So I remember I was coming out of Birmingham, and I was running down this sort of A road that was just hectic. I was thinking, still single carriageway, but the amount of gestures, there was a few unhappy drivers, and so it was like, flip it, like, come on.
Yeah.
But in terms of, it was all quite smooth, I think, for the actual event itself, and I'm like, I loved. Obviously, so much of it I was supported by so many like friends and family.
Yeah.
In the lead up, but then in the event itself, and so it was great just having a beer with them after a day's running.
Yeah. What was that feeling like when you finished? I bet that was unreal.
That was a good. Yeah.
Was it unreal, or this is something that I struggle with as well? Do you know when you've done something like that? Do you struggle afterwards? Because you're like, well, what do I do now?
I mean, because again, this is sort of the first thing I've done. I have just been like itching to.
There's no purpose.
Go and
do anything. Like I struggled whenever I've achieved something. Like I've had it for the last couple of days. So I've just finished dieting, and like I just sit there and I'm like, well, what's next?
Yeah, yeah.
And like mentally, I'm just like I don't want to say a dip off, but like I just sit there and I'm like, well, what's the point?
Yeah,
I need to go and do something. So have you struggled with that?
I think, yeah, definitely. I'm with you there. Like, I think I was sort of, in some ways, I said quite a bit during the run. It was probably the happiest I've been in a year or so.
Yeah.
Just because I think just like life just was like stripped down so much to so simple. There was like the purpose there.
Yeah.
I was constantly surrounded by friends and family.
Yeah. That must be brilliant. That.
And then you had this. Obviously, it was beautiful weather, and obviously I was just running every day, so you had that exercise aspect as well. So it was just so simple, and sort of now, as you say, there's just that. As I don't really know what's next yet, it's like
almost
what now? Sort of itching to do something.
Well, obviously we'll get onto the other stuff a little bit later, but what is next logically now? Because I know I've heard you've already asked to run again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is logically next? What have you got going around in your head? Because it's going to be hard to replicate or beat what you've just done.
Yeah.
It's going to have to get more.
That's it.
It's going to be like, have you seen him, the hardest geezer?
Yeah.
Mate, you're going to end up like that.
Yeah.
You're going to end up with that side of things. So what is it that's next?
I think there's a few sort of things going around in my head in terms of like, there's the what's it called, the NC 500 up in Scotland, which is just a long 500-mile road, and try and do that in a sort of more sort of shorter amount of time than I've done this, and more miles each day, but then also like other countries intrigues me, sort of either running across countries or that sort of thing, but then also a bit of like organised events where it's like 200 mile races.
There's some crazy ones, isn't there? Like, is it the Moab and things like that, where it's like they're just crazy. Like the criteria to meet for the races, some of them are like superhuman almost. Are you seeing yourself go that way eventually, do you think?
I think so. I do, because I think I like the like your own personal challenges as well, because you can just, it's a bit more of an adventure there.
It's you versus you, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I bet you found a lot out about yourself as well during those like 20 odd days.
Yeah, I think
days.
So.
Because, mate, nothing will make you realise stuff about yourself quite like running 800 and what was it again?
830 miles or so.
Nothing will make you discover yourself more than I think running 830 miles, because some people fucking run a 10k and they're like, that's me.
Yeah.
So 830 miles is a long time, but no, I'll be interested. So what is it? Have you got something in your head you're thinking? Is it just a few ideas that you've got going on, or have you got something that you're like, no, I'm doing that next?
I haven't got, other than, obviously I've got Leeds Marathon this weekend, but other than that, I've got nothing like solid in stone yet.
Yeah.
I'd say so. There's also the idea of like doing something like similar to what I've done already, but in different leagues around Europe.
Yeah.
So go do La Liga clubs or.
That'll be sick. That.
Yeah.
If you did that, do you know what? If you did that in each country, you get such a following.
Yeah,
100%, mate. Well, that's why you're here, because someone told me your story and I was like, I have to get this guy. I have to speak to this guy, because normally, this is no disrespect to other people I've tried to get on and stuff, the stories are like brilliant, but yours is like unique. Never heard of it. So like, as soon as obviously Rai put you on to me, I was just like, I need to get this guy on. So mate, if you were someone who made something out of running La Liga, the Italian league, all these different places, and it's never ending.
Yeah,
because there's leagues everywhere, and mate, I bet you some of the mad ones, like if you did like Argentina.
Yeah, no,
like Boca Juniors, River Plate, they're crazy clubs. So that'd be mint. Before we move on to the next bit, you've mentioned the Leeds Marathon. What happened with the London Marathon, mate? So, I've heard an inkling.
So
I brought it up off camera to get the go ahead. So go on, this is a funny story.
So London Marathon. So I finished on the Saturday.
Yeah.
And so there's probably about 40 odd people there, sort of at the Emirates, were seeing me through, and we had a pub booked for afterwards. So I thought, I'm just going to enjoy tonight with everyone that's here, and just enjoy sort of the night. And so we went. I had an Emirates tour, so we went on that. Had a few waters and whatnot, and then met them all in the pub. And straight away, obviously, people offering you drinks and things like that. I'm like, you're not going to get opportunities like that very often. So I was like, sounds good. Thank you, mate. Thank you. And then people start offering, because I've got I'm sort of double parts. People that start offering half pints, so then I'm constantly just topping up throughout the night.
Yeah.
And so we've got that pub from 3, and I probably leave it about 10ish.
It's dangerous because you could end up drinking about 20 pints and not realise. Because you're doing 2 or 3 an hour. Yeah. Before you know it, you're about 20 pints deep. It's dangerous, isn't it?
I don't think I quite got to that point. And I thought, right. And then got sort of dragged away. I stayed at a mate's house my godfather's house in the middle of London. And so they dragged me away. And we probably got to bed about 11:30, 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
And woke up the next morning. I was just absolutely hanging. I thought, I don't know. Going through my head at that point was just like this. If I get through this today, this will be, in my head, a bigger achievement.
The toughest part.
Than the month.
That's brilliant.
And so it was about 6 a.m. I woke up because, as I said, I'd never done this London Marathon or anything like that before. I thought I'll get there nice and early, so I don't even mess around. Wake up about half an hour later, I'm throwing up. I think I throw it twice before I leave the house. I get a quick shower. I think, all right, I'm feeling a bit better now.
Yeah.
Go to the train station, through the barriers, down to the platform. I'm thinking, I'm gonna throw up again here.
Yeah.
So I just sneak around the back of the platform, throw up again. Back on the train just rammed. I'm thinking, don't worry me,
Please
don't, not now. I'm just the sweats are coming on, and get off the train, walk up to the park, sort of at the start line. I have a bit of a nap. Rucksack has a pillow. And wake up again. Once more, throw up. And by this point, it's getting quite busy, so all the other runners are sort of looking eager. I'm not feeling eager. So I signed up to this green thing. So I thought that sounds great to help in the environment, and it was months ago, and I completely forgot like there's no bag drop in the green bit. Right. So I've got this rucksack full of all my clothes from the night before, and I'm gonna think, well, I'm gonna have to just run with this now.
You didn't.
So I get to the start line, by this point I'm feeling prepared. I've got a rucksack on tight as anything to try and stop jiggling about. And we set off. I've had no breakfast, and I'm thinking, I don't know what's going to happen here. I set off, and as it goes along, the hangover's going, and people handing out food on the sideline, so I'm just snacking oranges or whatever. And I've called my family saying, I've messed up with the bad drop. You're gonna have to come and you have to call me out at something alongside. So it gets to about 5-10k in, and the zip breaks in my bag. So I'm like, then someone's like tapping me on the shoulder, thinking, "Mate, all your stuff's falling out." I'm thinking, "Oh God, what do I do now?" So my bag's open. I'm just in the middle of the London Marathon at this point. I'm thinking, I can't. So I then take off my t-shirt, whack it on my front, put my t-shirt back over the top, so nothing forward with that, and then keep running. And it gets to about 18k, and then I see family. I'm like, thank God, take off the rucksack and then continue on.
So you've ran it. Let me get this straight. So you've ran it with no food, still pissed, and a bag.
Yeah.
So some people take months to prepare for these.
Yeah.
And you've just come off the pop the day before, still with a bag on. And how long did it take you?
It's because 3:32.
That's like a boss time. So. that's like a brilliant time if anyone ran it. Yeah. Let alone the conditions that you've ran it in. So that was the hardest part. That's got to be the hardest part.
I think so, yeah. Just
100%, mate. That would have to be, because the rest of it you was obviously prepared for.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have even done it, mate. I wouldn't have. That is insane just to listen to. I wouldn't have even done it. That is crazy.
Oh man.
At least don't do it this weekend.
No,
do not do it this weekend.
I'll go a bit more proper into it.
Yeah, please do. Obviously, as you mentioned a little bit earlier on, which obviously inspired the whole thing, you lost your dad.
Yeah.
What was the exact thing you lost your dad to?
So it was a condition called Cushing's disease.
Yeah.
But it was caused by a brain tumour, pituitary brain tumour.
Right.
So Cushing's disease, basically a overproduction of cortisol, which then
like a stress hormone.
Yeah. So that was caused by this tumour on his pituitary gland, and I think so. He was ill for quite a while before, and he'd had them throughout his life. Well, throughout my life anyway. And they've just come and gone, sort of like radiotherapy or surgically removed, but it's all sort of been all right in the past. And this time round, when it came back, it was a bit more. It was a bit more serious. It was a bit more aggressive, and it was obviously it caused him to be more ill. But it was always nice because whenever I go and see him in hospital, like little things, even though he wasn't himself, like how we knew him obviously before he was ill, but he was like watching the football or having chats about sport, especially. You'd always see his positivity and his like him shine through, which was always so lovely. And even like even in those like horrible days that he was having, he was still having positive, and that positive is still shining through. Yeah. Which is so nice to think about in terms of like the worst can be happening to you, but always have that positivity shine through, and always
100%. Well, I'm not sure whether you knew this, and I thought I'll tell you live because you didn't know. I lost my dad about 8 years ago.
Wow.
And I have so many memories where when I bring him up, that people go, "Why are you laughing?" And I'm like, when he was in hospital, it was just parts. It was just hilarious.
Yeah.
Because you sit there and like you're on about there, like even with all the bad stuff going on, there's still like humour in what's happening. When you look at them and just think, you're so ill.
Yeah.
It's still going on. Do you know what I mean? So that's like one thing. That's why I feel, well, hopefully you feel comfortable speaking to me about it, because I've been through, not exactly what you've been through, but I've obviously lost my dad and stuff, and it is a hard thing to get through. But it's so funny, mate, it's so funny you've just said that, because I don't think unless, and I don't mean this to sound bad, but unless you've been through it, it's hard to kind of, you've got to, someone hit the nail on the head once, he said, you've got to feel it. You can't explain what it's like losing a parent. And like when I tell stories about like when I used to go in the room and he'd just be like in a certain mood, like if I went to the hospital, and it'd just be hilarious. It'd just be like, but people would go, well, your fucking dad's dying, like you can't say that. And it's like, no, but you've got to go through it to kind of understand. But it is nice because obviously there's, like you've mentioned, he wasn't well. So there's a lot of bad stuff there, stuff that's obviously painful, but there's a lot of good memories where you look back and think that's actually hilarious. And it's going to be with you for the rest of your life kind of thing. But on a separate note, obviously we'll get back onto it, but how long's it been now? A year, did you say?
Just over a year,
How have you been?
I think overall... Like,
tough question, like, but...
No, I appreciate it. I mean, I think, obviously, it's the plan for the run has helped massively.
Yeah.
In terms of just have that drive and always having him as the sort of like the centre point of it.
Yeah.
But I think it's just been a thing of just again sort of just trying to keep him there always. Remembering all of his, like, obviously him for who he was before he was ill, and that's how I've got through it in terms of just obviously spending so much time with friends and family, and he was such a popular man.
Yeah.
That is so nice to hear so many stories of him and things like that.
You probably found out more about him since he's passed than you did when he was here, because it's like you say, you get all these stories that you won't heard from different people.
Yeah, that's
crazy, isn't it?
But I think obviously it is so tough. But I think, as I say, just laughing about all of his little quirks and mishaps and his stories, and always keeping him in your life, even though he's gone. You know what I mean?
I think you've done the right thing. I really struggled for the first, like, well, you always do, you always will. You've got to learn. You'd never. Who was it? Someone said it to me. You don't get over it. You just learn to live with it, which I think's right. I think, but that first year or so, I think 'cause I was so busy being not busy. I just was putting stuff off, and you've done it absolutely right, where you've just gone, fuck it, I'm doing something, and it was for a great cause, obviously. But I think, as you mentioned, pulling it back to what you said earlier on, when you strip life back, you just ran for a month. That was it. Get up, run, go to sleep. Get up, run, go to sleep. And I think like keeping your mind busy is so important during times like that, because, like you say, you're losing a fucking massive part of your life. And then if you sit around, and I see people who also have lost like the mum or the dad, and they massively struggle. But I feel like if you just let it get on top of you, well, you've done, mate, you've just done the absolute right thing. And I think there's so many layers to this story. Obviously with the charity, which we'll get onto, the run, which was outstanding, in memory of your dad and stuff, there's so much to it. But like a lot of people will lose a parent and then that's it. It's like I don't want to say it's like it affects the whole identity, but it almost does. What do you think with that?
I definitely I see that. I think like, because as you say, it's like it's such a massive part of your life that you're losing, and it's just cut out like that. And I think I did find, like, especially this past week, it's almost been like a bit of like a take back. In terms of, someone described it to me as like when you sort of something like this happens, it's almost as if you like a board game, just your brain almost just been flipped upside down. And then it's just like you've got to slowly figure things where they go again. Put things back to normal. It's a good way to look at it, that, actually. And I found like so much stuff that I've struggled with like when as a kid or whatever, that's all come back up as well, which but having that analogy sort of really helped in terms of that's all sort of natural, and being able to just sort of go, that's just that coming back up, or and having, I think, as my dad was sort of, he almost reaffirmed who I thought I was to myself. Not in any particular way, just from him being there. I found that was a bit of a thing when he passed was like, hang on a minute, is this sort of, and even though I knew it was who I am, but there was sort of like a double,
reaffirmed.
yeah.
It's 100% agree with like everything you've just said, mate. Like I think you find out more about yourself, like we said with the run before, but in a different angle. You kind of find out more about yourself afterwards, I find.
Yeah.
Like the amount of stuff I didn't know and did know, and I only realised after he went, I was like, fucking hell, this is like a wake up call. Do you know what I mean? Like it's crazy, but mate, it's such a good thing to do in his memory, and I think like it's encouraging to a lot of people, because if they do lose someone, I see people all the time, and I think this is an important thing to like kind of double down on, because you've been through it, I've been through it, you've just done something amazing off the back of it as well, where like if you have lost someone, it's important to just fucking get yourself back to, like you say, it's normal to, like you've mentioned with the board game, it's going to take time. To be honest, you're probably never going to fully get it back. It's been 8 years for me, and I still will watch a film, get upset.
Yeah.
Will find a card, get upset. I'll laugh about something, get upset.
Yeah.
And it's just natural. And it's normal for you not to have everything, especially straight away. Like you've got to have that time to almost, like you've mentioned, put the things back together, put things where they were again. Do you know what I mean? But I think it's important, if anyone has lost someone or losing someone, just kind of acknowledge it and get yourself back to actually accepting that that's how you're supposed to. Because this is again, interesting question. It felt like it was only happening to me at the time.
Yeah.
And you can't just think, man, the fuck's all this happening to me? But people lose parents and like sons, daughters, nans, granddads all the time. So it definitely was that something you went through? You felt like, fucking hell, this is just me, or was it something where you shared it between, like, obviously your siblings and stuff? Did you deal with it okay? Or
I think no, in terms of that sort of thing, I think I was quite obviously, as I say, my family as well. Obviously, I have like three other people that I was going through it with, and I always having them there. So I didn't really come away with that thing of why this happened to me.
Yeah.
I think I'm not sure why, but I think the support from my family in terms of and we all had a very similar way of sort of going through that. And a lot of that was just through humour.
It's the best way.
Yeah.
It's 100% the best way.
And so
maybe it's the wrong way.
No, yeah, maybe, but
it's the best way.
Yeah.
It's 100% the best way, mate. Go on, sorry, carry on.
But so I think, I think probably maybe a bit lucky that my brain didn't go that sort of that way in terms of why is this happening. It was, and you've got to find a way to sort of deal with it as best as possible. So,
is you a big football fan, your dad?
Yeah, massive.
Is that what inspired the football?
Yeah.
Who did you support?
So I'm an Arsenal fan. Even though I'm from North Yorkshire, so
is it today or tomorrow? PSG tomorrow, isn't it?
Tomorrow,
big game that, mate.
Yeah,
big game.
I'm excited for that, but a little bit nervous.
Right, we're back. We just had to cut whilst Chloe messed about with the cameras, but we're back. So Dad was an Arsenal fan.
Yeah,
inspired the run. Come on, let's go from there.
So I think he was an Arsenal fan. Never really made much sense because he was from Doncaster.
Right.
But as a kid, he was from Doncaster, so he didn't like Leeds.
Mate. No one likes Leeds. Nobody likes Leeds, mate. I think that's a universal British thing. No one likes Leeds. It's not just your dad, mate. None of us like Leeds.
And so he was like, right, didn't want to support Leeds. Donny were like, not so good. So he was like, who else is pretty good? Arsenal. So he went with Arsenal. And so growing up, football was always a big part of our lives. Either watching Arsenal but playing as well. For me, up for the first sort of 20 years, football was my sport.
Did you play for York?
Yeah.
He said that, and I didn't know how I was going to segue into this.
Yeah.
That's perfect. We'll get on to that in a sec, but go on, carry on.
And so as a kid, like he was always, he coached me at points from my local club. My dad did. And then when I sort of go into more semi-pro, sort of more of a like professional environment, he was always so supportive in terms of dropping me off or taking me to different places, like obviously up and down the north of the country sort of thing, and always just been a supporter. And then obviously, so when he passed, it was like it would be great to be able to do something in his memory, but not just like because the thing of like John O'Groats Lands and that sort of thing came to mind, but it's like it's not very personal, and so the stadium tour felt like a fitting thing.
Brilliant, that, mate. Such a good
especially to
story,
finish
that.
at Arsenal.
Such a good story, that. And do you know what? Like, just a little segue, and then we'll come back. But especially like my missus, I'm a United fan.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's grim at the minute, mate. It's hard at the minute, but it's hard to get through to someone what football means.
Yeah.
Because it's not just flick the telly on, watch a football, get kicked for 90 minutes, flick it off. Like you've just mentioned, your dad was taking you to football. It was a whole family thing.
Yeah.
There's a massive part of it. So I think that's why it's just, mate, it's such, I know I'm going to say this about 50 times during this podcast. It's such a good story.
Yeah,
it's just so good. And like, the further into it you get, the more mint it gets. Cause it's just like, that is so personal to your dad. Like you just mentioned, if you'd have turned around and gone, I'm running 30 marathons in 30 days. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant achievement. But like, you just turn around and gone, nah, I'm doing this. And this is so, like I said before, it's so unique. So personal. I just think it's a bit of it's a mint touch. So is that why you finished with Arsenal?
Yeah.
Because it'd have been a bit underwhelming if you did it halfway through. They went, right, I've got another 10 stadiums to go through here.
Yeah.
No, that's boss, mate. That's really, really good. So a completely off-topic one now, and then we'll get back onto it. But York, played for York.
Yeah, so
He mentioned this, and I thought that's so interesting. I don't know how the fuck I'm gonna bring, because obviously we're going through obviously the brain charity, what you've done. I can't just go. So So you played football. Why did you stop? What happened? What happened there then?
So as I say, like I played for my local club up till 16.
Yeah.
At 16, then I went to play for York.
Yeah.
Sort of did sort of a scholarship there, alongside college, and then stayed on for another 2 years as like a first team player, so to speak. Never really. Well, I didn't break through properly. So I was. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought here. But yeah, so I was playing for them, and then sort of after 2 years, I was thinking I'm ready for something new here. I was 20 odd, so I was thinking I was from a small town called Thirsk, and it was like need to go out and see more places. Experience something else. So I thought the chances are probably not going to be kept on at York. It was really nice because that year they got promoted. So I was able to be a part of them celebrations. Got promoted to the National League, and then sort of I ended up moving to Australia. So I through one of my coaches at York, he put me on to one of his old teammates, and he now lives in Perth, Australia. He sorted me out with a club over there, just playing semi-pro. And so I lived in Perth for a year playing out there, and then I came back a few times during my, obviously, stay out there with Dad being not so well. So it's obviously to help out at home, see Dad, and obviously bits and pieces. And then it looked like he was getting better, so I returned back to Australia for 5 months or so. And then he took a sort of turn for the worse and basically got home. And a few days later he passed away. And after
this
that,
is recent then? Just only like it's a couple of years ago then?
That was 2023, end of 2023.
Yeah, so literally a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it was like, after that, I was sort of ready for something new. I love the idea of, even before Dad passed and before I finished at York, I remember chatting to him about the sort of potential of going on these sort of adventure runs, so to speak, where you could like make your own event and just run across the country or do bits and pieces, and you can travel. I remember mentioning that to him, and so after he passed, it was like maybe this could be a good
catalyst,
segue.
Catalyst.
That's the word. And so since then, I haven't played, which I miss it.
A couple of years ago, not played.
Yeah, not properly. Played bits and pieces.
Yeah, but not like it to the standard that you normally play.
Yeah.
So have you always had this type of brain where it's just like go?
I think a bit where I've always had something that I've been focused on. So as I say, throughout sort of child years, it was football. Try and become that best level I could possibly be at, and sort of. And without really noticing until you sort of just said, I've never really thought about it, but I guess so. I've always been striving for something, and and it's just happened to always be in sport, really.
this is like a bit of a rogue question. What do you? So obviously, with my job being a coach and stuff, I try and instill and drill into people like you're at your happiest when you're doing something.
Yeah.
And I thoroughly believe that.
Yeah.
I know it sounds like such bad advice, but I just think like movement's the best medicine, especially mentally.
Yeah.
Like, have you had any instances of that where like we said before, where you struggle a bit when you slow down and go, well, fucking hell, well, what's next?
Yeah.
Like, what's your take on that? Just because, mate, you're one of the most active people I've ever heard of. So I'm going to ask you now, like, what do you actually think of that? Do you think there's any truth behind it? Do you think, like, if people moved a bit more, they'd be a bit happier mentally? Completely rogue question. I just would love to hear your opinion on that. Because you seem like someone who's you just fucking seem brilliant. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
No, I mean, thank you. But, yeah, I think definitely agree with you. I mean, because when you're exercising, you're either feeling good in your body,
yeah,
or you know you will be feeling good in your body soon.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's firstly such a massive part. But then for me, it's obviously running, just being outside,
yeah,
and just not even potentially exercising, just doing something.
Yeah, 100%.
So whether you're out and just having like, even it sounds like silly, but just going out to the pub and having a few beers with your mates is better than just sitting inside.
100%.
But whatever it may be, whether it's a walk or a bit of tennis, a bit of golf, just
Yeah.
being out and doing is like, I couldn't agree more. Like it's so good for you mentally.
100%, and that's why I wanted to hear what you had to say on that, because I think now, especially the further into it we go, and like there's just more convenient, everything's from your phone. You've got Netflix. You've not got to leave the house to do anything. You can order your shopping. You can watch things on the TV. Like all your friends are through your phone. So it's getting like less and less as time goes on, and we're seeing to have like this, obviously this mental health epidemic, whatever you like to call it, mental well-being epidemic. But I try and get it through to people. So I just thought it'd be interesting to hear what you had to say on that, because as you've mentioned, you could do anything. Yeah. It's not going to be like yesterday, mate. Like I've mentioned, I struggle off the back end of achieving something. There's a week or so where I'm just kind of like, well, what's next?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, as we've said it before, like my missus yesterday was just like, I can tell something's up with you. She's like, why? She went, she just cleaned the whole house.
Yeah.
Like you've got to do something. You can't sit still.
Yeah.
And like you said before, you start itching, don't you? And I think getting yourself up and giving yourself that fighting chance is like such a big deal. As you mentioned, it's not going to be, you got to go out and run 10 miles. It could be go out for a walk, go out and enjoy the weather, go out and have a pint. And like you say, it's such a huge part of it, isn't it? And I think that's a good lesson people can take from it, that just get out and move. It makes a big difference.
And what I would say basically like on that is, like, even though I'm sure most people listening or watching this will be sports people, but like, for example, my mum, she's not massively into sports. She enjoys her walking and things like that, and swimming. But like her thing is like, especially to sort of throughout the last couple of years, has been like going out and do pottery classes or like beekeeping or whatever it may be. Just
beekeeping?
Yeah, she's
How do you even get into that?
I don't know how she got in.
That's class.
But just doesn't have to be. But again, both of them, she's getting out of the house, she's going to meet friends, or with the beekeeper, she's outside. And so just doing something, moving your body.
No, I agree, 100% agree. And like, I can go too far the other way though. I think like we're getting married. Me and my fiance getting married in September, and I was like, I'm going to learn Greek.
Yeah.
And she was like, you aren't going to learn Greek. And I was like, I'm going to have a go at learning Greek. And I'm like, I've picked up a couple of bits, but I thought, I'm going too far the other way now. Where like I can kind of dive into things too much with like both feet, do you know what I mean? But I do think it's important, because I think just keeping your mind active, mate, especially off like, again, kind of pulling it back to what we were saying. If you have been through something that's quite difficult, like, keep your mind active.
Yeah.
Because I think the more time you spend doing and the less time you spend thinking, you're so much happier.
Yeah.
Because I don't know whether it's like a human being thing or I don't know whether we all feel the same. But for me, if you sat around all day with your thoughts, fucking torture, mate.
Yeah.
I struggle with it really badly. Like, not in like my mental well-being, mental health's great, like, but you know, it takes a couple of days for you to sit there and, like we say, you start doing your own heading, and the minute you start moving again, you go, oh, actually all right. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing up with me. But no, that's so, mate, that beekeeping thing, I'm gonna be talking about that all day now. I don't even know how you get into beekeeping, but that's amazing. And it's not lastly, but you wanted to speak a little bit about the charity, didn't you?
Yeah.
So shout out, actually, before we do, shout out to Ryan Taylor. He made this interview / podcast happen. He put me onto you. So he works at MPF. Is that what it stands for? What's the charity called?
The Brain Charity.
Brain Charity, that's the one, yeah. Brain Charity.
And so yeah, Brain Charity. It was they're a charity based in Liverpool.
Yeah.
And they help sort of anyone and everyone sort of affected by neurological conditions.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we as a family, well, we were never aware of them before Dad passed.
Yeah.
But we were so lucky to have such a big support network around us, like family and friends, with Dad being so popular. Sort of so many people coming to visit him in hospital or helping out with my mum, like whether it's walking the dog or making meals when she's at the hospital, things like that.
Yeah.
And so many people don't have that.
Yeah.
And so that for us, that was something massive that we wanted to help with, and that's something that Brain Charity do. I've helped the support of people with these conditions.
Yeah.
But also they make like they've got such a community in their centre with either so many people that have neurological conditions that volunteer or that obviously go there regularly. They've got like a neurodiverse gym, so it's specialised for people with neurological conditions, and it also is just creating that safe space where obviously it can be a bit daunting, or I'm sure obviously I can't speak from personal experience, but for someone with neurological condition, going to like a regular gym could be a massive daunting idea.
It's huge,
And so being able to go there in a familiar environment with other people, like-minded people,
100%,
is such a massive thing. So I think that was such a massive reason for us wanting to support this sad charity, and they've just been amazing, really.
I think one aspect of what you just said, community, is massive for that, because not just for the people who've been through obviously like the neurological conditions and things, but for you as well, because obviously although there's a person that's going through it, it's kind of like you suffer twice. You've got like the person that's going through it and the family that are affected. So I'm not saying it's nice. It's not a nice thing to go through, but it's a comforting thing.
Yeah.
Where other families are going through what you're going through.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could speak to them and other people. Like you say, it's, as we said earlier on, sometimes things can feel like they're only happening to you. Whereas if you go to this place, you're like, fucking hell, I'm not on my own. There's all these people. So it is really cool what they've done. So you're going to be working with them again going forward?
Hopefully. I haven't really spoke to them about it, but I think this is one thing that I've sort of have started to think about is sort of over the summer I'm planning to do like a couple more decent sized events.
Yeah.
As I say, I've got that bug now. And so I think I'll probably then at least extend it till sort of September, October time, and do these other events using that same fundraising page and all, helping out with them.
How much did you end up raising?
Well, we're at almost 22 grand.
That's a lot of money, that,
which
mate.
is just, I can't quite believe the support and how generous people have been.
Yeah, that is a lot of money. But the thing is, like you say, is a lot of people, more than you think, are probably affected by it. So it's a close to home thing, and especially like as we get further down the line, like we're discovering or identifying quicker, more convenient ways or more efficient ways to help people like your dad and families and stuff. So all that money, mate, just makes the whole thing like better for the next person who unfortunately will go through it. Like it all goes to the right place. So it must be mega for you, because obviously you've done something brilliant for yourself, but you're helping potentially thousands of people in the process. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what stuff have you kind of like spitballed with him? Because I know you've mentioned you've been thinking, but what ideas have you got to do like with them? Because obviously you've mentioned like a few things in the summer there.
Yeah.
What have you got rattling around your head?
So again, obviously, them events that I've got in mind, sort of maybe the NC 500 or...
Which one are you leaning more toward? You've got to be leaning more toward one.
What, in terms of the next run?
Which one do you fancy more, yeah?
I think, I hope it's called the NC 500. But yeah, that sort of North Coast Scotland road.
I've heard of this. And is it on the outside of Scotland? And it's just like the I'm sure I've heard of this actually before. And it's just it's
like a road trip, you think.
It is.
But But then I think I'd love to continue that. Obviously, the Premier League, the football season is about to finish.
Yeah.
But then to be able to sort of maybe back end of the year, be able to go to Spain or Italy or whatever.
I thought you were about to say Scotland then. Mate, I've been to Scotland in December and it's not nice, mate. It's freezing. But no, I think that would be cool, to be fair. So what do you think you lean a bit more toward NT 500, a bit more toward like doing it in a different country?
I think
at the moment, what's your gut saying?
I think probably NT 500.
Yeah.
But mainly because of that, with the football season coming to an end, and then so maybe back end of the year go and do another football run, because as you say, I like that. I love to have that link with the football as well.
I think it's so unique as well, mate. I think it's so unique. Have you got any like social? I know obviously I've got you on social media, but have you got any like social media accounts set up for that?
So
I would if I was you.
Yeah, I mean
100%. That lad walked to Ibiza.
Yeah.
Do you ever hear about him? What do you hear about him? Yeah. Walked to Ibiza. Fucking everyone was all over him, mate. If you ran across Spain to different, people love it.
Yeah.
I think if you've not done that, mate, you need to. 100%. People would love that.
Been on it a bit, but it's still sort of, and it's gained a bit of traction during sort of this month.
Yeah.
But then it's obviously to keep that topped up sort of thing.
Yeah, you got to keep going, haven't you? Well, that's your incentive. You just got to keep going, mate.
Yeah,
but I think, do you know what? People would love that. If someone can walk across fucking Ibiza, I think you running from each stadium in Spain, mate, you'd get so much traction from that. And you could probably raise a shed load of money from it as well.
Yeah.
Do you know if you had like do you use a GoFund? Is it GoFundMe you use?
Just Giving.
Just Giving.
Yeah.
So if you like set it up to like a Just Giving, mate, you'd make fucking loads.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But more just because we have mentioned it on the messages and stuff, but I'm actually interested in hearing the mentality side of it. You've mentioned the word ethos there when we messaged yesterday. What is your mentality going into these things?
I think
so, because it's, mate, no one's done what you've done really. So like, it's such a unique mindset. Like, how do you approach it, during it, before it, after? I'd love to hear it all, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, so I think my mindset is probably a bit is very sort of relaxed about it all.
Yeah.
In terms of like, I enjoy the running, I enjoy the outdoor experience, and I enjoy the adventure. So in terms of the beforehand, it was just like, wow, it's like a 10k, just a bit further.
Yeah.
Just don't, not to overthink it, and just taking each sort of kilometre at a time and just enjoying it as much as possible.
Yeah.
But then sort of my whole thing about it is like, running is such a simple thing.
Yeah.
It's like everyone can run.
Yeah.
And I think so many people at the moment, I think there's a bit of a thing around having the right gear, or I can't go for a run unless I've got those trainers or this kit.
There's a lot of that.
And it's like, there's not much to it really.
Just run, yeah.
If you've got, granted, you might need a semi-decent pair of, just a pair of running trainers.
Yeah.
And then you can go out in your normal t-shirt, you can go out in a pair of shorts, football shorts or whatever, and just go for a run. It doesn't have to be. It could be 1k, it could be 10k, it could be 60, whatever. And again, my whole thing is just enjoying the whole process of it all. So, not having that pressure on myself to then at the end of each day get straight away ice bath or water hydrate, the full on recovery. I'd have a shower, I'd have a few beers, and I'd just enjoy the evening.
Yeah.
And then my whole thing, and again coming back to the London Marathon, it's just a case of, at points it's like, of course you don't feel like doing it because it's such a long task, or you sometimes can think, oh, I've got so much further to go. It's just a case of sort of stripping it and just sort of stripping that away from your brain, just almost not acknowledging it but ignoring it, so to speak, and just going, but just go and do it. It's a simple. You break it down enough, it's a simple task.
That's interesting that you said that, mate, because I feel like a lot of people, do you know what, I probably get guilty of it as well. If you have this almost tick list, like you've just said, where you finish and it's like, right, ice bath, recovery, this. If I thought I did all that and then the next day I was like, shit, I haven't done that. That'd be in my head then. And it'd almost affect my performance.
Yeah.
But if you do like what you said there, it's almost freeing. You're like, just put a pair of trainers on, just go for a run.
Yeah.
That's it. And I think it's enjoying the process of it. I think sometimes, definitely with like the bigger tasks. Like if you look too far, like what you just said is brilliant as well. If you look too far ahead, like if you looked and was like, I've got another fucking 800 miles to do. Like when you've already knackered after like 30 miles, 800's a lot.
Yeah.
But if you just go, couple beers, go to bed,
Yeah.
run again tomorrow, there's just something to be said for that, I think, where it's, the process is just important. I think it's important to enjoy that process, no matter what it is as well. I think, like, obviously, like what you've done is outstanding, mate, and it's something you'll never forget, your family will never forget, and obviously you'll go on to do more. But like, no matter what you do, just enjoy what you do.
Yeah.
Because if you're not enjoying it, what's the point?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's it.
Like you say, because it's so personal to you, and you've done these other things. Like, it's, wow, I'd hate it if I was in your position and you had something mint like that set up, like for your dad, and then you spent half it going, I fucking can't wait for this to finish.
Yeah.
You want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And it's nice because, and coming back to sort of what you say there is the first. It's funny because the first couple of days, probably the second or third day, is when waking up them mornings, it was like, God, my legs are in pieces here.
Yeah.
And then, but almost just like, again, coming back to that humour side in terms of when you're sort of in the shit a little bit, just laugh about it,
Get on with it, yeah.
and just and like I would not overthinking about it, because again I was in such a beautiful place, because in the middle of the Pennines by this point, the sun was out. It's like, wow, sort of, I don't have to worry about the later, because I'm in 5k I might actually be feeling fine.
Yeah.
I'm fun, and I was sort of 5-10k in again. You'd loosened off and you're good to go. And they were probably the two hardest days, and which was so early on.
Would they? I was about to say,
Probably,
where were your
yeah.
hardest ones? What you would say, second and third day?
I think just physically, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I think just because the body again was just like, what on earth are you doing?
Why
here?
do you think that was? Just like a little bit of shock, or do you
I think so. I think, and I probably became more for maybe pain threshold as well raised.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think just probably the body just not really being sure of what's going on.
So how? I know we briefly touched on it before, but how did you prep for it actually? Because we didn't actually delve into that before. Like you mentioned, you had a coach and stuff.
Yeah.
But how did you prep for it?
So
I know you mentioned techniques and stuff, but like, what was the actual setup for this?
So I think
we didn't touch on it.
I mean, so as I say, for the last 6 months is when sort of the prep sort of properly started.
Yeah.
Up until then, it was just sort of me winging it, sort of building up a decent baseline fitness. And then I was chefing for the sort of, so I had a full-time chef job, and so I brought in Jack, my coach, to help me out with it all. And essentially, basically, days would consist of obviously starting slow, just maybe 4 or 5 days a week, sort of maybe an easy couple hours run, or interval session, progression session. As we built up, so for over the last few months, it would sort of be on days off, I'd probably do sort of an intense session, so intervals or progression. By that I mean sort of interval being sort of on an intense speed, faster speed, 4 minutes, slower speed for 2 minutes, or whatever. And then sort of sandwich that in between 2 easier blocks. And then later on the day, I'd do a longer easy.
Yeah.
So that'd be towards the end, I was sort of doubling up on days off. And then when I had work, I'd usually sort of work up until sort of 10 at night, get home at 10, I'd then chill for an hour or two, and then I'd go out sort of early in the morning before I went to sleep, and sort of have either long and sort of complete my sessions then.
Yeah.
But I think there was probably sort of, trying to remember now, it was probably 2 or 3 sort of interval / progression sessions a week. And then 2 or 3 sort of longer, easier.
So how many miles was you averaging a week, roughly? I know it's probably a tricky question.
I think just, so again, by the end, I think my furthest week was, 190 k's, which is about 120 miles? No, 120 miles.
Yeah, it's not
like
far away from that. I can't convert it, but it's not far, is it?
And so, in terms, but that was obviously miles away from what I was actually running in April. So I was like, I was a bit, obviously I completely trusted that I'd be fit enough, but it was like, I found it really amazing that your body can become so conditioned just from not actually putting in the amount of work that you will be doing.
Because it's hard to. You can't prepare for what you've done.
No, yeah, you can't replicate it.
No, you can't. That's what I'm saying. Like, you can't. I listened to a podcast not long ago with like Mo Farah, for example, and he literally was like, on an easy day, I'll do like a light 10 miles and then I'll come home and then I'll do this. But his was just to run. What did he run? Was it 5,000 meters?
15,000, 10,000. Yeah.
So like, you can replicate that.
Yeah.
As amazing as he is, like, you can replicate that, but you can't replicate 830 miles. That's why I was like, what have you done? Because it's. So suppose like, a lot of this, mate, was just mental resilience.
Yeah.
What did you ever need to lean into any mental resilience on the runs, or was it just kind of like, I know you mentioned you're enjoying it, but surely at some stage you're like, it's fucking difficult this.
Yeah, I think there definitely was. I think that was sort of one of the main lessons I learned from it, which I think I already knew, but it made it so stand out obvious. But throughout most days, there was going to be a period of whether it would be like could be half an hour, it could be an hour and a half. That sort of could be. And the longer it went on, it sort of didn't matter whereabouts in the run. It could be the first 20k, it could be the last or whatever.
Yeah.
It just varies so much. But there was always the thing of, right, so you could be going through a tough period here. You're tired or you can't be bothered or it's too hot or you're feeling whatever. And it was just a case of just knowing that it's so random, but in however long time, however many, in an hour's time, you're going to be feeling better.
Yeah.
For no apparent reason.
Yeah.
And that always sort of brought so much comfort. And I knew there was never a point. It was again, you could sort of acknowledge that thought of this not very fun at the moment.
Yeah.
And just go, yeah, but we are fine. I can keep going.
So you were just very get on with it, weren't you?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a lot of your mental aspects.
Yeah.
Is just get on with it.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned there, like a lot of people might have like, oh well, I've went into this. You've just sat there and gone, well, it'll be better.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
Almost. But mate, honestly, I could let you go on all day because I've loved listening to this. But I think we've covered everything, haven't we?
I think so.
Is there anything else you want to talk about? Or 'cause I could, like I say, mate, I could sit here all day because your story's amazing. So is there anything else you want to touch on?
I think all good, really, mate.
So the floor is yours, mate. So where they can donate, what they can do, things like that.
So if you search Archie Whitfield, Just Giving, my Just Giving page, I would have thought will come up. But my Instagram sort of Archie WS Whitfield, all one word. You find links on there, and that's where I tend to post most stuff about. And I've got a website as well, which I'm hoping to do a bit more on.
Yeah.
And that's archiewswhitfield.org.uk. And you can sort of find the different links on there. But
well, what we'll do is I'll put all that in the description.
Yeah.
So to make it easier, obviously you could go on to all them things, or if you struggle, the links will be in the description. Mate, I really appreciate you taking the time to stay.
Well, thank you very much,
mate. What a story,
you.
and I cannot wait to the next one.